All right, hello everyone. This is going to be a little bit different. We are not going to be talking about the development of the application necessarily today. I'm going to do a little bit something different for this episode. We will continue developing our application, but today I'm going to introduce a tool that will help you develop faster, just make your life a little bit easier. And that's Amazon Q. There are different flavors of Amazon Q, and especially today, I'm going to be showing you Amazon Q. And I want to show you why I really like this tool, and it's my go-to tool for every day that I do now. So we're going to deep dive. This is also going to be able to help you expand that application that we have. So as we go through the different episodes that are going to be coming up, you will be able to even do more stuff, be able to get some imagination going and some creativity and be able to implement it into the application. I'm excited because I really, really, really like this tool right now. And I think it's very powerful. There is a lot of things that you can do. And I'm going to show you the most important features or the things that I normally do with this application today. Okay, so first of all, Amazon Q comes in different flavors, okay? Amazon Q comes in Amazon Q for developers and Amazon Q for business. Two completely different things. And I'm talking about Amazon Q Developer, and this is a coding assistant. Amazon Q for Developer comes into the flavor of a plugin for the IDE, so Visual Studio or JetBrains IDE, but also comes as a CLI. And the difference is that the CLI, you can use it across the terminals that you have. So if you have a Mac or a Linux, you'll be able to open up a terminal and be able to chat with it. If you're in Windows, you will be able to use it with the Linux subsystem. If not, then you'll have to go with the Amazon Q plugin on the IDE. There is no Amazon Q CLI for Windows. But today I have a Mac, so I'm going to be showing you the Mac. This is why I really like it. And if you're on Linux, hey, you're going to be able to leverage this tool as well. So here we are talking about Amazon Q CLI. This is a website. I'm going to put it into the description of this video, and you'll be able to come here. For Mac, it's very easy. You just download the file, the DMG file, be able to install it. That's going to install it across your system. And then for Linux, then there are the instructions here on how to install it for Linux. Okay. There are a few different things that you can do with the Amazon CLI, the Q CLI, and let's take a look at those ones. It's very easy to install. If you want to see a little bit more, there is the GitHub repository. It has additional information as to how you want to do it. On Mac, you can also do brew install Amazon Q. So I was mentioning Linux is here, but if you're in Windows, well, you will have the WSL. The following the discussion for Windows basically tells you to use the Windows Linux subsystem. Okay. Now, let's jump in. Let's jump in into some of the things that you can do. First of all, I like to using it with my IDE. Inside my IDE, this is the Amazon Q. I was telling you that there are multiple versions or multiple flavors of it. Amazon Q, there is the plugin here. And so if I go, I have it installed as well. This is Amazon Q. Sorry, okay, perfect. And so you can chat with it here. There is a few differences and the things that I really like with Amazon Q. First of all, is with the CLI, I have it in my terminal. I can open multiple terminals and do different things, and I still have my coding environment still okay. And that's one of the things that I really like about it. I don't have to be jumping from view to view to be able to make a difference. Okay, I had already started Amazon Q here, but how do you do that? Well, once you install it from any terminal, you just type Q, enter, and it's going to start bringing things up. Well, you start to see one of the things that I really like, and that is the MCP servers. You can integrate with MCP servers, and I will give you a little bit of a look into what that means, and how you can leverage it. But for now, this Amazon Q, you'll start here. If you want to know what you can do, what commands you have, you can do /help, and you will see that all the commands are starting with the /. Okay? There is a lot of different things that you can do here. First, foremost, you can start with very simple questions or just interacting with the chat with the LLM. So I can be, hey, explain to me how API gateway works in AWS. And so it's going to go and it's going to start pretty much chatting with it. Now, you may be thinking, okay, how many tokens am I using? What's going on here? Which LLM am I using in the backend? Amazon Q for developers comes in two subscriptions. One is free. You just need to have a builder ID, which is free. You register, and then with that, you're able to log in. It does have limitations like anything with a free version in it. Has limitations. There are a certain number of calls. I believe it's 50 chats that you can have with the tool, and you don't really have a lot of advanced features. And then there is the Pro version. The Pro version, you acquire it by logging into your AWS account and then creating a subscription for Pro. It comes to $20 per month, and then a lot of the limitations are moved. Based on the website, it doesn't say that there is any limitations, but I'm sure somewhere in there are some rate limits or why not. So far, I haven't hit them, and I use it quite a lot. So that's what I really like about it. And so I'm using the Pro version. I haven't hit any of those limits, and that's why I feel comfortable asking like these simple questions to show you, because I do this on a day-to-day and I haven't hit a limit. But you can see here, it's giving me all the information. It's fantastic. I can take a look at it and see all these examples. Well, what else can it do? Well, it can interact with your system and talk to the terminal and run bash commands or AWS CLI commands. Or it can talk to also the project and the files that you have in here. So let me show you an example of that. Let's go ahead and say save. No, I'm not going to do command, sorry. Save this conversation into a file. And so what I'm going to do that right now is going to save it. You see that it's thinking, and what it is when it's thinking is because there is agents behind, there is agentic solution here. And so there are many different things that I can do, and the agents are checking what are the tools available and which ones should it be used to be able to complete the task at hand. You can go very crazy with it and ask it to do development, writing code, writing projects. One of the things that I'm going to show you is how do I do a diagram, which is something I really like, an AWS architecture diagram. I really, really like it. So it's telling me, okay, I'll help you save the conversational file. Let me create a file with the content of the conversation. So it's doing all of this. And sometimes you may see that this happens where it is outputting everything rather than actually saving it on a file. And so it's just giving me over here. So now I have to be more specific and tell it, write that summary into a file in the file system. Sometimes it will get it fine. Sometimes you will have to be more explicit. And so what it will do, it's going to go ahead and if it works properly, as any demo, it should come up and use a tool to be able to write it to a file. Now, there are a few tools that are available. One is file system write, file system read, bash command, execution, where it will be able to do that. Okay, so it got it. It's writing. It's going to write the file. So you can see, you can review what it's going to write. It will tell you the path and the tool that is using FS write, which is file system write. And at the end of it, it's going to ask you whether you're allowing the tool to write or not. And so in this case, you have yes, Y, N, no, and T, which is trust. So I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And the trust is, so it doesn't ask you again during this session only. So if I close this session, open a new one, it will ask me again, even if I already said trust in a previous session. It's only for It's only for the session. Okay, so now it's creating the file. So API gateway conversation on this, and I should be able to. I have created, fantastic. So I'm gonna open here, and here it is. Here is where the file is located. So I can definitely do that. Now, there are other things that I can do. So I can tell it, give me a summary of the project or of the code contained in this project directory. So it's gonna go, it's gonna take a look at it, and it's gonna give me a summary of what's happening, what's going on, and I can keep asking questions about it. So this is what I really like. It's able to interact with the file system, it's able to interact with your project, it's able to have that context. And as the conversation keeps going, all that information gets added to the history or context of the model, so you can keep asking questions and it will know where you are and what type of questions you're referring to. Sometimes, for example, I may ask it, hey, can you modify this file? And the file is somewhere else. It's not on the same directory where a queue is executing. And then it's going to be like, oh, I cannot find it in this directory, but let me list all the directories so I can go and search through the directories if I can find it in a different directory, which I really like. I don't have to be telling it, hey, go into this directory specifically, or you have to do this. It will try to find additional ways to achieve the task. Now, this is the information is giving me a really good summary of what's going on, what's happening, and then I can make modifications. I can tell it, hey, based on this information, let's make this modification, let's add this thing, or why not? So for example, let's say that I have my app, and I'm gonna be like, you know what? Let's add a Lambda function that generates images. Images using Amazon Nova Canvas. Let's see. And so I'm gonna go ahead and do that. So I say, okay, let's create the Lambda function code. Just gonna go and create a Lambda function code. I need to check if it's gonna write it or if it's gonna just display it to me. We'll see. Okay, so it is gonna actually write it. So you can see here it's gonna write it. So I'm gonna go ahead and say yes. I'm gonna go ahead and let it write it. You can see here my Lambda on the side. Now image generator is being created. So it's creating that. Now, look at that. I didn't have to specify it. I only need to tell it that, hey, I want to create a Lambda function with that. But it's like, hey, you know what? This will only make sense if we actually include in the SDK stack. So now it's modifying the it's reading the SDK stack, and then it's going to go and modify it. So you can see here that I have file system read, and I already trust it because it's a safe operation. This trusted, it's being able to carry out through multiple sessions. But any write, even if I trust it, it will only be for that session. And so you will see here what it says like, hey, trusted, this tool for the session only. I'm gonna go and say yes. So it's gonna be replacing the stack that I had before with a new stack. And you will be able to see here that it's able, like, this is the image endpoint. Not only did it add it, deploying the Lambda function, but it read that I have an API gateway. And what it did, it actually added a, method, or sorry, a path to the API gateway so that I can hit it through the API gateway. I didn't specify that. But when it read the stack, it was able to, oh, you know what? You are integrating this Lambda functions thread. Let's go and do that. And so then it will give me a summary of what it did. Create a Lambda function, it added the index, then updated the SDK stack, and renamed existing Lambda to text generation because I had it very generic with FN only. Added a new image generation Lambda function, high memory for image processing. Love it. High memory, 256, and longer timeout of 66 seconds for image processing. Environmental variable to Nova Canvas model ID. Enhance API gateway structure. And you know what? it's really great. So now it added the path of GenAI text and GenAI image. Cool. I don't have to do a lot more and enhance the IAM permissions. I added invoke model permissions needed for the image generation, which is fantastic. I really like it. I can go and review what was going on, take a look at it in my, and see what it did. So I really like that. Now I can continue doing different things, modifying the existing code, or why not? But you can see it is quite powerful on that. Now, the other thing that I can do is I can say, let's see what I actually have running on my API gateway. Sorry, on my AWS account. So what I can do here is I can tell it, hey, you know what? Give me all the API gateways running in my AWS account in US is 1. So in order for it to do this, it's going to use the AWS CLI to be able to connect to it, to be able to connect to my AWS account based on the profile that I have and the credentials that I have saved on my AWS configuration. So as you can see here, it's using AWS, the tool to use, and the CLI command, the service name, and it's just getting the data out. So not only can I do things here, but also you can use the CLI to connect to my AWS account and be able to get additional information. Sometimes he will encounter an error. That's fine. It will come back, it will read that error and say, okay, I need to make a modification, or why not? So he's gonna go, he's gonna try the command again. It's gonna list, look at that. The command that I ran wasn't correct, so it got a list of other commands. It's reading through all of that, and it's doing its own thing, trying to figure out how to get information that I'm asking it for. Now, so this is what I really like about the tool. There is a lot of things that I'm able to do here. Okay. Now, this conversation is getting longer and longer. There is a lot of stuff that is happening here. We're gonna take a look in a moment once this finishes and gives me the information out. We're gonna take a look. I'll look at that. Image video generation API. Great. It's giving me this other API that I've been testing. Awesome. So it's telling me all of this stuff that is happening here. Now, let's say that I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to, you know what? This conversation is getting a little bit long. Like, it's taking a while for us to be able to get that. How much am I using of the context? Well, I'm gonna do /usage, and you will see here that the context window is 39210 out of 200,000, so 39,000. So I'm using about 19% of the context window. Now, what I can do, and you can see here where it's coming from, context files, queue responses, and your prompts. Now, I can go and say, okay, context show. And I can see here that that is showing me which contexts are being part of that are into my number of tokens. Now, I can always add more. I can always add files. So I can do context, add, and let's add the file, the conversation that I had before, just as an example. So it's going to be API gateway conversation. Now, you can see that it's there. Now it's adding a little bit more tokens. I can take a look at my usage. That's how many tokens are being added. Now, let's say as you are having this conversation, this context is going to grow and grow and grow. What happens when you get always to the limit? Well, you can always do compact. And compact, what it do is going to create a summary of the conversation that you have had and just delete everything else, delete all the history, and just keep the summary of it. So that way you still have context into what you have been doing on the chat, but you don't have to keep everything on it, which is something that I really, really, really like. So you see all of that, it's there, that's the summary. And now if I take a look at the usage, now it has dropped to 15%. A lot of it is coming from my context files. I can remove them if I want to. Now, what else can you do with it? Well, something else that I really like is the profile. So profile, allows you to create context or have context files and configuration specifically for different projects. So you can switch between them without having to make a lot of modifications. So for example, I already created, you do a create profile and I can do create profile test or demo. A profile create demo. So now that's gonna create my profile. And then when I go to usage, look at that, it's at 0 because I'm starting from fresh. If I do my context, show, it's not gonna have anything because this is a brand new profile, doesn't have the context that I already created with my default one. Okay, so that is something that I really like because as I'm working with projects, I can have context files for one project and then I can switch to a different project that will have different context files, different chat history, and I'm able to kind of like, don't worry about it. I just switch profiles and off it go. It's totally fine. You have these commands, which is load and save. So you can save the conversation as a JSON file, load it up again, and everything is fine. But outside of this, what else do I like? Well, I like two commands that I'm going to show you. One is the model command. I was telling you the Amazon Q is powered by Claude in the backend. By default, it's Claude 3.7 Sonnet, very good. But also you have Claude 4 option here. I can select it. Now I'm using Claude 4 for additional power. All right. Now you can go and play with it. You can do tests. Why not? But the other thing that I really like, the other command is the MCP integration. So I'm gonna take a look at the MCP integration. As you can see here, this MCP is a list of different things that I can load into it, or tools that I can load into it. A lot of them is the AWS Labs. I'm going to share with you the GitHub repository where all these MCP servers are in there. And there is in that GitHub, there is steps on how to add them to Amazon Q. So you can definitely do that. And it gives you exactly what to add. So it's very easy to be able to do so. But as you can see here, it has Terraform MCP, cost analysis, core MCP, repo research, memcache, front end, bulky, documentation MCP. This is one of the I like, and diagram, documentation and diagram. Okay. The reason for that is because I can go ahead and ask it based on the documentation server. Explain to me the application inference profile in Bedrock. So application inference profile is something a little bit obscure in the Bedrock documentation, or rather in the ecosystem. It's not very out there, but and a lot of LLMs, if I ask it just straight, it won't know what's going on. But because I'm asking it to go through the documentation, look at that. It's going to search it's going to use the search documentation tool in the server. And I'm going to go say yes. And it's going to go take a look, see what it can gather, and then be able to retrieve that information and give me a good summary. So I really like that because sometimes when I'm asking it to do stuff or code stuff, it may do the wrong thing because it's not using the tools by default unless I specifically tell it to do so. But I can go ahead and say, you know what, do the research on this, go and look at the documentation and modify the code based on what you find. And it will go and do that. It's going to go and search for the service or the terminology that I want, come back to my code and say, okay, I'm sorry, I need to make these changes, which I really like because then reduces the amount of errors that it produces. So I'm going to go say yes. It's going to start reading the documentation around it. Okay. So that's what I like. And I'm going to show you the diagram one because that's actually also a cool one. So I'm just going to trust this one because it's all of read documentation. It's not going to modify the AWS documentation. So I'm just going to trust it and say, okay, just read. So sometimes this will happen where you will see it did a lot in one go and it just didn't give me a lot of information at the end. I can just go continue and it should just continue the thought that I had before. But this is what I like. There is a few more MCP servers. You can interact. You can create your own MCP server and be able to integrate it in your own. I have built a few, put it into queue to be able to test and be able to play with them. They do work. It's a great way to also test MCP servers. Do it, the company I work for. We are a FinOps organization. we do have an MCP server, so you can also manage your costs through Duet. So Duet MCP, I'm going to have a link to it in the video, so you can check it out. If you're a Duet customer, you will be able to leverage that one as well. It's actually pretty cool to be able to talk to your reports, be able to get information out. So now you can see here, it's actually giving me a good analysis into the inference application inference profile. It's giving me some how to build it, some examples, and so on and so forth, on how this works, which is great because sometimes it's a little bit more difficult to go through all that information in documentation. This is very more straightforward, and I can ask questions, follow-up questions about it, which is something that I really like, or apply it directly to my code. So that's fantastic. Now, let's say that I want a diagram, build an AWS architecture diagram using the diagram server. So it's gonna go and do that. It has all the context of the project that I'm working with. And so it's gonna go and leverage the diagram server. And I'm gonna say yes. It's gonna list my icons. I'm gonna show you, it's actually pretty cool. There is a couple of things that you need to do to be able to make it work. You need to install, if I'm not mistaken, VU, which is a Python virtual environment package, similar to virtual environment and Conda, but it's a different one. And you need to install Graph VI set, Graph piece, to be able to create the actual images. So now I generated my image. It's in the folder generated images, and it's just gonna write to it. It's finishing writing, and so let's see here. It's in here. Okay, so it created the file. Oh, look at that. It created my diagram. Cool. So right now it's very simple of this project, right? So it's the user, the API gateway, my two Lambda functions, the text and the image generation, and Bedrock at the top. So it did a great job. Now I have created more complex diagrams, and they look really good. So it's not only the simple ones that it can work, it's also more complex ones that it can definitely do without a problem. So create a diagram, everything looks great. It's give me an overview of what's going on, of what it created, and the things that are happening in there. Okay, look at that. Now I create a little bit more of a complex diagram the second time, because it's doing the AWS CDK, the AM permission, CloudWatch logs, Nova Light. So that's Nova Light and Nova Canvas. Fantastic. Even though the architecture is simple, it made a really good application here, which is great. Very good architecture here. So that's what I like. You can integrate more MCP servers and things on it, but you know what? This is great. This is why I like the tool, because it does a great job at helping me on my day-to-day. I don't like creating diagrams per se, but this tool makes it easy. Documentation is also easy to do with it, things like that. I can even troubleshoot things. I can ask it questions like, hey, this is something happening in my AWS account. How can I fix it? You will go and talk to AWS and say, okay, what's the logs? What are the configurations? And it will come back and give me ideas into how to fix it. Now, I'm not going to say it's perfect. Like any AI tool, it's not perfect, but it's pretty good. And so sometimes they give me ideas. Sometimes the ideas are very wild and out there. Sometimes the ideas are like, you know what? Actually, I'm going to try that. I'm going to see what that works. Or troubleshooting, debugging mechanisms where I'm like, oh, you know what? I haven't tried that. I'm going to go and check if I'm able to reproduce that. So a fantastic tool. I will encourage you to play around with it. Amazon Q, CLI. You can also use it outside of the Virtual Studio or the IDE. And in terminal, you do the same thing. Q, and it will open the chat. But as we go and start building our application, you will see that I may leverage Amazon Q to certain things. You may have already seen when I'm building the application, when I'm writing the code, that here it auto completes things. So for example, of course, it's not working right now. So let's say like you sometimes need to be a little bit more. There you go. It will give it a little bit more, but you can see here, it created pretty much most of it here. I may be a couple of things that I need to modify, but it's actually very useful. And you may have seen already when I was deploying things or developing this, that it was giving me suggestions. Sometimes I don't take them, sometimes I do take them based on the context and based on whether I'm seeing if it's good or not. But this is what I like about it. It's versatile. There is a lot of things that you can do. Really, it's a great tool to have that will help you in your day-to-day. If you're on DevOps, fantastic tool to be able to connect to your AWS account and be able to see what's going on. If you're a developer, fantastic tool to be able to help you develop faster in any language. So I hope you have fun with it. I hope you have been useful and you give it a try. Remember, Amazon Q CLI is free with Builder ID, or if you want to remove the limitations, go with a Pro for $20 a month. I will say, you know what, it's worth it. You get access to Cloud Sonnet 4 and Cloud Sonnet 3.7. So why not? I think it's a fantastic deal. Have a good one.